Hey, it's Elisa. Welcome to day two of the Plant Powered Challenge. So yesterday was just a little bit of groundwork, basically getting set up, figuring out your meal planner, and just your what and why. And I also mentioned how I got started, which was Meatless Monday. And I really cannot emphasize that enough. It's just getting started. So no matter where you are is perfect. You don't have to have your journey look like anybody else. And it might just be that your goal is to add in more plants or to eat more whole foods. And that's fantastic because when you're doing that, you're up leveling your nutrition. One thing I did want to share with you today, because we're going to look at the sources of protein, because that is probably the one question I hear more often than any other question, which is how do you get your protein? And especially as an athlete, I have people question that. And the really interesting thing is that you probably won't get questioned about your nutrition if you eat any other way. So like you could eat at McDonald's every single day and you might not get anybody questioning your nutrition. They might just get, okay. And, maybe you should eat a vegetable here or there, but nobody's gonna, give you a hard time or think that you're malnourished. But a lot of times when you eat a lot more vegetables, you might have people question like, how the heck could you get protein or how, can you be healthy? When really vegetables, especially, fruits too, are so nutrient dense, it's amazing. And so you're really going to up level your nutrition when you eat more vegetables and more fruits. And the really cool thing, and this was one of the first things that I learned when I was on my journey, is how much protein vegetables actually have. So back then I read a book by, I'm trying to think what his name is, because I hadn't thought of mentioning it till now, but I had read a book, I think it was Dr. Joel Fuhrman, Eat to Live. And he talked about the level of protein in vegetables. So especially things, stood out to me like the protein in spinach and kale. So I'm going to share really quickly with you a couple of visuals so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So this one, first, this is a picture of, and this might be hard to see. So I'm hoping, it took me to Facebook. So that's kind of taking me in circles. I'm going to stop that share. I don't know why it didn't want me to see it. Let's try the other one. That was kind of funky. So this other picture, and again, we're back to Facebook. So it's not letting me do the share. So we're going to come out of that. I'll show it to you this way. How about that? So this is the top 10 sources of veggie protein. And it says, again, where do you get your protein? And it's showing by content of the actual vegetable how much is protein. So for instance, it's saying spinach is 49% protein, kale is 45, and so on and so forth. But you can see on here there's broccoli, cauliflower, mushrooms, parsley, cucumbers, green peppers, cabbage, tomatoes, and then at the bottom, because just for comparison, it's showing you beef, chicken, and eggs and what their percentages are. So it says beef is 25.8%, chicken 23.8%, and eggs 12%. But in general, we're taught, those types of things, beef, poultry, eggs, fish, things like that. And even if you go out to eat, you might see where you're ordering a meal and it might have, your selection, and they might ask you what type of protein you want. And they're thinking in their minds that protein is, an animal product, that it's, beef, poultry, eggs, something like that. But in reality, we can get protein from vegetables too. And that's the really cool thing. So, and in addition to vegetables, of course, there's things like beans, nuts, tofu, which tofu comes from a vegetable, it's soy. So I just wanted to share that with you because if anybody has ever, questioned you, or even if you had that thought for yourself, like, hey, I want to eat more vegetables, but I want to make sure I'm getting my protein. And as an athlete, of course, protein is very important because you want to have your protein for repair. But in reality, most of us get way more protein than we need. And when you get too much protein, you just, pee it out. So just some things to think about as you're on your journey, just so you know that you can and will get enough protein if you're eating these types of vegetables. So today, one thing that, was really interesting for me, before I started and actually I can't even say it was before I started my journey, because my whole life I've loved vegetables. So even before I thought about becoming vegetarian or becoming vegan or, looking at the whole plant-based type of thing, I loved vegetables, and I went through a huge cooking phase where I loved to cook probably more than anything in the world. And I was cooking, all weekend long and, all week long too. And I love to create all different kinds of creative foods. And when I started becoming more plant-based, I found that there are amazing swaps out there that, it comes really down to the seasoning. So a lot of times we think that, there's a certain thing I have to have. And in reality, it comes down to how it's seasoned, how it's spiced. So for instance, if you like hamburgers, my husband and I, we do a thing usually once a week, or, sometimes we don't get to do it every week, where we try a different veggie burger or a bean burger. So you can trade your hamburger, whether it's a beef burger, turkey burger, whatever it is, for a veggie burger. And there are amazing recipes, and we've tried all different kinds. So, and I can share one of those with you as well. If you are signed up for my email, I'll be sending out a couple recipes today. And then another one, and this one is kind of funny to me because I was never really a fan of hot dogs, just knowing what they're made of. But a lot of people love hot dogs. And we've found a recipe where you can make, believe it or not, a carrot dog. And just like I was saying a second ago, all comes down to the spices, to the seasoning. You actually, cut the carrots to a similar length of a hot dog, soak it in some, juices. It's like a marinade pretty much. And then you cook it up and it tastes exactly like a hot dog. So if you're a hot dog fan, give it a try. And one of our sons actually, that's one of his favorite things when we cook out is to have the carrot dogs. So, it's something to think about. And again, none of our kids are vegan. They are open to the plant-based thing, and they'll tell us, different things as far as restaurants in the area and places to go. But we definitely eat way more veggies than they do. Another thing that I found was tacos. So I've seen so many t-shirts and memes about tacos and how everybody loves a taco, but you can actually make an amazing taco filling substitute with things like walnuts or cauliflower. And then there's also a thing called TVP, which is texturized vegetable protein. So again, getting that protein from the vegetables. And when you use TVP, it actually looks kind of like little crumbles like ground beef. And again, it comes down to the seasoning. It's that taco seasoning that makes it, pretty like hard to tell. And it's really a very cool thing, exploring these and then, getting to see. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are some recipes out there that aren't the best, that aren't my favorites. And it all depends on how you prepare it. So if you want to get a little adventurous and try it, I definitely recommend it. And again, I mentioned yesterday, maybe picking one or two tips to try out and then adopting them and see how they work for you. One of my other favorite substitutes is, for anybody who loves chicken nuggets. Now, there are two versions that we've tried that are just amazing. Now, one has gluten. So I no longer eat gluten. So if you're trying to stay away from gluten, this first one you might not want to try because it uses vital wheat gluten. But it, the texture is, exact to chicken nuggets. And then we also make a version out of tofu, which again is soy. Now, some people avoid soy. So if you're avoiding soy, then you might not want to have that one either. But, maybe you want the vital wheat gluten option. But both of them, it is amazing how identical it is to what you've experienced as a chicken nugget. Other options, if you're a fan of meatloaf, lentil loaf is amazing. So you cook it up, the lentils, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's the seasoning. So you might hear this pattern, this trend. It comes down to how you spice it, what you put in it. And just like you could use lentils in the meatloaf or the lentil loaf option, you can also make lentil sloppy joes. And then a big one, and just like I mentioned yesterday about cheese, a lot of people are huge fans of bacon, and you can make a bacon swap with, get this, coconut. You could use rice paper or you could use tempeh, but it's just, again, how you spice it, how you season it. And then one of the others, and this is one I was talking to my mom about yesterday because she was mentioning chicken noodle soup. We have a kind of like a broth, or like we make a seasoning that you can use to make a broth, and it's for chicken noodle soup. So you can have chicken noodle soup without the chicken. And one of the big things that it uses is nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast is kind of like a wonder thing. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow when we talk about dairy. But you use nutritional yeast, you use parsley and a few other spices. And we actually put it in a little jar. We have it ready to go. So if we cook up some ramen, add a little bit of that. And it's like having the chicken ramen, only it's, no chicken. And then the final one, and this is one that we make mostly in the winter, but of course, every now and then during the year, is chili. So a lot of people think of chili as having, hamburger or other meat in it. But I love to put all different kinds of beans in it. I mean, I'll put, whatever kinds of beans we have in the house. And, especially if you add lentils, that can add a little bit of the meat substitute kind of thing, because the lentils work for a lot of things. You can also add that TVP that I mentioned earlier if you want to, try that out. You could add the ground walnuts. So you can get very creative. But like when I make chili, I love putting in lots of beans, lots of vegetables. So we'll put peppers, onions, corn, and just, just the same way that you would make a regular chili with the tomatoes, the tomato sauce, and what's the secret word today, gang? It is seasoning. So it all comes down to that. And it really comes to having that open mind. So sometimes when we make some of these swaps, there might be somebody who could say, well, it doesn't taste exactly like this. It doesn't taste exactly like that. And of course, it's not going to taste exactly, but sometimes it's really cool to see how similar it can taste and the fact that you've up-leveled your nutrition. So if a doctor has said to you that you need to lower your cholesterol, you're concerned about your heart health, or maybe it's just your waistline, I highly recommend you give some of these a shot. And again, if you didn't sign up yet, make sure to sign up. I'll send you the workbook. You'll get the emails, which will include a couple of my favorite recipes. So some of these that we've talked about today, I'll be sending out a few of these recipes. That way you can give it a try. And if there's a recipe that's your favorite, or there's something that, maybe there's a swap or something that you're curious about and I didn't mention it, comment below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. And, I can let you know there might be one that I've either tried or that I could, let you know, give it a little sample myself. But get creative. I think that's the really big thing, is knowing that you can be as creative as you want to be. And you don't have to feel like you have to stay eating the way that you've always eaten. And that's a big thing. So I mentioned that yesterday in the workbook when we went through it with the limiting thoughts. So you might think, I've always eaten this way. I've always had a hamburger after, a game, or I've always had this, or I've always had that, or this is just the way that I eat. But knowing that you might become the kind of person who can, maybe try something a little different. And, like I said, with the veggie burgers, you might try one and say, yeah, this one's not that great, but there might be another one that you really like. Now, a key, and I just thought of this as I was saying about the veggie burgers, there are tons of frozen veggie burgers out there. There are, different processed brands. You can try them as an entry. And actually, that's one of the things that I did when I first started eating more vegetables. I would buy frozen veggie burgers. But honestly, you can't beat making them the way, because you can totally make them the way that you want them. And then they don't have any additives or things that you might want to stay away from. Because if you're gonna eat anything that's maybe a vegetable version of something else, and it's something that's already processed and made in the store, or made and taken to the store, read the label. I really encourage you to read the label, because not all of those processed things have things in them that you want to eat. So do your homework, but start where you are and do those little baby steps. Know that you don't have to jump in and do all of these things that I'm mentioning. Just take one step at a time. Because as I mentioned with my journey, I started years ago where I just was eating a lot of vegetables. And then gradually at one point I decided I wanted to become vegetarian. And, from that, because at that point I was eating a lot of dairy. I was eating a lot of cottage cheese and yogurt and egg whites and things like that. And then through my progression, I decided, to cut that out as well. And that's really your choice. It's up to you where you want to be on that spectrum. And pick the right place for you. And maybe that's the right place for you right now. So you can make, your choices as you go along. You don't have to commit to any one thing. And So that's really all I have for today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about those dairy swaps, which again, that's a big thing for a lot of people. So if you're into dairy, milk, ice cream, cheese, the big one, you don't want to miss tomorrow's call. And if you like what you've heard and you want to learn more, definitely sign up. Just send me a DM. And if you also want to learn other ways that you could work with me, send me a DM and we can chat. If there's something that I can do to help you, I will let you know. And if not, I can point you in another direction. I have lots of other resources that I can help you with. So thanks so much for sharing this time with me today. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.